Welcome to the debate. Have you ever tried to learn a new language and you just completely freeze up?
Oh, yeah, totally.
The grammar rules, the massive vocabulary lists, it can just feel overwhelming.
Absolutely.
So today we are looking at a recent A1 English listening practice program that kind of throws a lot of that traditional rigid structure right out the window.
Right.
Its core philosophy is basically just do a tiny bit every day, listen casually, lower the pressure. But the big question here is, does this micro-habit approach actually build a sustainable path to fluency, or does it, fundamentally oversimplify how human beings acquire language?
Yeah, it's a fascinating program to examine. And look, I absolutely get the appeal of just, listening to a 5-minute podcast with your morning coffee.
It sounds nice, right?
It does. But when I look at this methodology, I worry that relying on fragmented practice without structured correction, well, it means a beginner is going to hardwire their mistakes into their brain. And that ultimately caps their true comprehension down the line.
See, I think that casual approach is actually its greatest strength.
Really?
Yeah, because the curriculum explicitly tells students it's okay to make mistakes.
Sure.
Even native speakers do. And by prioritizing consistency over heavy, stressful volume, they're targeting what linguists call the affective filter.
Right, the affective filter.
Exactly. Basically, anxiety creates this psychological wall that literally blocks your brain from absorbing new language input.
I completely agree that fear is the enemy of learning. If you are panicked, you aren't retaining anything.
Right. So by explicitly giving students permission to be imperfect, this material dismantles that wall. It builds persistence, which a beginner needs more than anything.
I hear that, but methodology needs rigor, not just comfort.
Okay.
The advice here literally tells students they don't need to understand everything. They just need to listen to 5 or 10 minutes of audio.
Which lowers the stakes.
It does, but that risks creating a very comfortable illusion of progress. I mean, you can let a language wash over you like background music for months.
Yeah, but
unless you are actively pulling apart the syntax, you aren't actually clearing a neurological path in your brain.
But they do ask for active engagement, just in small, manageable doses.
Okay, like what?
Well, once the learner is comfortable with the sounds of the language and that anxiety is lowered, the program introduces specific building blocks, like their rule to learn exactly 3 new words a day.
Right, reaching 90 words a month.
Exactly.
Mathematically, it sounds great on paper.
Yeah.
Pedagogically, though, I'm highly skeptical.
Why?
Because memorizing 3 isolated words without understanding how they modify each other or how they fit into an English sentence structure, that is just memorizing a dictionary.
Right, but
You aren't learning how the language actually operates.
I would push back on the idea that they're totally isolated, though.
Okay.
The material explicitly pairs those 3 daily words with writing simple sentences in a notebook before bed. It prompts the student to write things like, "Today it was sunny. I felt happy."
Sure.
When a student actively recalls a new word and attaches it to a personal, lived memory, they aren't just reciting a list. They're forging a new neural pathway.
I'll admit, writing simple sentences is definitely a step up from staring at flashcards.
Right. That daily practical application is how you pave the road.
But it still doesn't solve the core issue with accuracy. A student might be paving a road, but they might be paving it in the completely wrong direction.
How so?
Well, without a teacher checking that notebook, they could be practicing the wrong verb tense for 90 days straight.
Which brings us to how the material handles spoken output, because that is where the stakes get even higher.
Yes.
They recommend that students literally talk to themselves throughout the day, saying things aloud like, "I am making tea now," or "I am cleaning my room."
And this is exactly where my alarm bells go off.
Really?
Oh yeah. Unmonitored self-talk is practically a recipe for what we call fossilization.
Right.
That is, when you practice a grammatical error so many times that it essentially turns to stone in your brain. And it becomes incredibly difficult to unlearn later. If nobody is there to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Actually, we say I made tea," you are going to fossilize that mistake.
I understand the fear of fossilization, but you're assuming the learner is operating in a total vacuum.
Well, aren't they?
Not exactly. The first 2 steps of this program require daily listening, getting the ears used to the sounds, and repeating the video's native dialogue out loud. Doesn't that act as a natural built-in corrective loop over time?
I'm not so sure.
Well, over time, the brain starts to recognize the pattern of the native speaker and naturally adjusts its own output.
See, that assumes the beginner has a sophisticated enough ear to actually hear the gap between their own spoken sentence and the native speaker's audio.
Okay.
For a true A1 beginner, that gap is invisible. They simply don't know what they don't know.
Right.
Exposure alone, without someone explicitly pointing out the mechanics of a misconjugated verb, isn't going to fix it.
But isn't that exactly how children learn? Through massive exposure, making countless mistakes, and slowly aligning their speech with the adults around them? With removing the formal tutor, the material empowers the adult learner to adopt that same natural trial and error process.
Children have thousands of hours of immersion, and adults constantly remodel and correct speech for them. A beginner studying 15 minutes a day doesn't have that luxury.
That's a fair point.
They need structure to make up for the lack of immersion time. Otherwise, that trial and error process is terribly inefficient.
I think it really just comes down to a fundamental divide in how we view the beginning of the journey.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
For me, the power of this methodology is that it gets you to show up.
Right.
By lowering the stakes, building confidence, and relying on daily exposure, beginners actually stay in the game long enough to acquire the language.
And while I think the emotional support and habit building are fantastic, I still maintain that true comprehension demands more than just exposure.
Yeah.
It requires structured, accurate frameworks early on so you don't spend years trying to unlearn those fossilized habits.
Yet, we definitely agree that daily engagement is the absolute prerequisite.
Oh, absolutely. You can't learn a language if you quit in week 2.
Exactly. There is clearly a lot more to explore in this material, and we invite everyone listening to examine the program themselves to see which approach best serves the beginner's journey.
Definitely worth looking into.
So, the question remains, is tossing down 3 simple bricks a day the best way to start building a foundation, or do you always need the architect's blueprint first?